Hello and welcome to Mangatora 96, and today we're going to talk about Overlord. Today's topic will be everyone's favorite pile of bones. He's revered by his subordinates like a god. He's the mastermind behind everything happening in the world. In fact, he is so good that he himself doesn't know what is going on most of the time. I'm of course talking about the Bone Daddy himself, Ainz Ooal Gown. But before we start, here's the spoiler warning. I will be spoiling a lot of things in this video, so if you don't want to be spoiled, I would highly recommend that you go and read the light novel, as it is an enjoyable read. For everyone else, let's start with who Ainz is. Ainz Ooal Gown, formerly known as Momonga, is the guild master of Ainz Ooal Gown, Overlord of the Great Tomb of Nazarick and the creator of Pandora's Actor. He is regarded as the highest of the almighty 41 supreme beings by the NPCs of Nazarick. In the New World, he is the Sorcerer King of the Sorcerer Kingdom and the most powerful magic caster in the world. His other identity is famously known as Momon, a dark warrior and leader of darkness, an Adamantium rank adventurer group of that nation. He is an Adamantium class adventurer and the strongest adventurer known in Aerantel. While Ainz is a cautious and stingy person, he will always try to plan ahead and control details beforehand in order to avoid any haphazard actions that can endanger Nazarick's existence. This means going as far as lying to the inhabitants in the New World that he can't use one of the Supreme Tier spells for years to come after using it once. Since being transferred to the New World and becoming an actual undead being, Ainz has felt himself becoming very cold and calculative while his emotions are repressed. He was not the least bit afraid of lying to or provoking his combatants, using each and every trick he can think of to overcome the odds. He can take satisfaction from experimenting with his powers by measuring the extent of it to the point where he heartlessly brainwashes and kills people. Everything he aims to do was to better himself, rack up accomplishments and master new ways to use his magic and states in the world. Being the collector and hoarder that he is, Ainz spends his time and money in Yggdrasil amassing a formidable amount of items regardless of its actual value. One-time event items share space with easily obtained common drops in his inventory as nothing is ever thrown away. This includes items which he cannot personally use such as swords, armors and scrolls. While most of them are stored in his item box, some are left in his private room in Nazarick and Aerantel. Also, Ainz's arrival in the New World has since further expanded his interest in other things that now include plants, animals, and even sentient races that are later stored on the 6th floor of the Great Tomb of Nazarick. He is ambitious and open enough to look for ways outside the tomb to bolster Nazarick as a whole. As the guild master of Ainz Ooal Gown, he loves to reminisce about the wise words from his fellow guildmates as they hold some meaning now in the New World, which the NPCs wholeheartedly agree to. Since he is loyal to his friends and the NPCs created by them, he acts with a certain degree of nobility when leading his devoted followers properly. It was so that they can faithfully have a supreme being to look up to and depend on, since he is the ruler of the Great Tomb of Nazarick and the last supreme being to have stayed with them even after the creators left them behind. It was to this extent that he follows the whims of his followers' plans hatched up by them, particularly Demiurge and Albedo. To maintain the facade of a glorious and intellectual ruler with tremendous wisdom, he deceptively lets the two greatest minds of Nazarick reach the conclusion that everything they did were part of his long-term grand schemes all along. Ainz would bluff his way out of a certain situation like it without the latter noticing his ignorance and incompetence. He allows his two advisors to do the explaining to the rest of the NPC for him, as he himself had no clear clue or idea about what they are planning. However, playing the role of a dignified person is very tiring and stressing for an average salaryman like Ainz, making him feel as though sometimes he would wishfully develop the desire to run away from his duties while making up excuses to make the situation possible. Despite everything he did for the sake of Nazarick, Ainz has done so to show the NPCs that he does happen to care for them. He considers himself like a father figure to Pandora's Actor and his friends NPCs, tending to their well-being and needs first before everything else. At the same time, he goes as far as to offer them rewards for their diligence. Due to the harsh work environment Ainz and his guild members were raised in from the real world, he shows signs of concern for the workaholic nature of Nazarick residents, worrying that his subordinates are overworking and pushing themselves too hard without rest. He's willing to make some adjustments to the NPC's work schedule, including rest breaks into it for as long as needed be until they have fully recovered. When he was crowned the king of his newly formed country, the Sorcerer Kingdom, this trait also plays a certain key role in earning loyalties among his countrymen. For instance, the Guildmaster Ainz described Ainz as being a rational person who makes wise decisions carefully, commending him for being an intellectual but merciful ruler. Additionally, Ainz is open-minded to others' opinions of the actions he has partaken, appreciating their criticism and learning from his mistakes, in which the Floor Guardians can do to help him. There are also times where he is nicely playful and other instances when he appears as a bit lonely, reflecting on the fact that he has no close companions from his guild to confide his troubles to or talk with luck in the past. Once you have gained his favor and Ainz opens up his heart to someone as a friend, he is surprisingly gentle. Furthermore, Ainz is not only looked upon as a thoughtful and generous person, but also by outsiders of Nazarick who work for him while kindly rewarding them with Yggdrasil items due to their hard work. In a way, Ainz is true to his word and oath when he honorably accepts certain conditions made by individuals in the form of promises held to a high degree without betraying them. He has a benevolent nature of ruling over his nation peacefully without bloodshed, figuring there is still always room for reasonable negotiations. Yet at times, however, Ainz would feel paranoid and pessimistic that his Floor Guardians or other NPCs that follow after them may someday abandon him if he doesn't live up to their expectation. Nonetheless, he only does things that will benefit Nazarick or himself above all else, whether it's information or prestige, although he does have a sense of justice and doesn't hate humans as much as his followers. Ainz holds no deep attachments to them and he feels nothing towards their deaths. He does not view humanity as an enemy, but he will kill humans with no hesitation for the sake of advancing his goals. Even so, he wants to avoid conflict with other players, especially the ones who are human and are willing to protect their kind. After killing Shaltir with his own hands, he became a lot more vigilant and hostile against players or those foes with new world items that could possibly harm Nazarick in the near future. Aside from the NPCs of Nazarick, the only player Ainz will show the most concern for are his past companions. With that said, he can still come off as a ruthless and heartless to those outside Nazarick, like the invaders who attempted to rob the home of his guild members and lied to him about getting permission from them. In an act of aggression, it came a point where Ainz would loudly unleash his voice of rage while admitting that he has no intention of letting any of them escape alive and get away with their invasion. On the other hand, he has a competitive side to him regarding the action of players within the new world as what motivates him to not fall behind in terms of technological development. Likewise, everything he does is all for the sake of Ainz Ooal Gown, the great tomb of Nazarick and the Sorcerer Kingdom altogether. For that reason, he is secretive about the information he may have gained, refusing to disclose anything in case it serves Nazarick's interest. Since Ainz prioritizes knowledge as utmost importance to him, he also likes to participate in doing random experiments with the sole purpose of obtaining valuable information on the new world inhabitants, martial arts, magic, items, or even their way of life, such as religion. In his dark warrior persona as Momon, he is viewed by people to be very dignified as a worthy adamantium adventurer, yet not willing to make others uncomfortable around him. True to his nature, Momon is also very faithful and honorable, and he refused Nefri's request for the Sword of Darkness, prioritizing them first as it was something he accepted before anything else. While he holds great trust with his comrades, he refuses outside aid if they happen to slow him down during his job. Let alone that, he would use some of his spare time to exchange greetings with every single adventurers group in the Re-Estate Kingdom. Out of respect for his fellow adventurers, he doesn't like to reap the rewards for himself and wants those who took part in stopping the disturbance with Re-Estate to be paid equally as well. In and outside of the tomb, he is quite mindful of Nazarick denizens' negative behavior towards foreign lifeforms beyond their home territory, feeling that he needs to be very considerate and wise on who to bring with him on his exploration journey and when traveling to other places like the Dwarf Kingdom. Taking advantage of his authority over Nazarick denizens while in the highest position of power, he will enforce and import his words onto them so they do not act out of the conduct in front of him. In the face of his guests at a meeting, this means going as far as to scold and admonish his subordinates if they speak out of line or turn, correcting their respectful behavior while offering a sincere apology at the same time. After staying in the New World for some while now, he starts to realize that his friends may not have transferred with him, accepting the fact they will never come back. Realizing he is losing interest over time in bothering to find them, Ainz turns his focus and objective to ensuring the NPC's happiness over anyone else, while the citizens of the Sorcerer Kingdom come second to it. He even feels motivated to learn and grow stronger in his own way by accumulating knowledge about what is in the New World that distinguish itself from Yggdrasil, like their unique magic talents, martial arts skills and items. In other words, he wants to self-improve himself not only as a magic caster but as both warrior and the ruler of a nation too, seeking guidance from people who have experience on the job, be it through physical training under Cocytus face to face in a duel or observing Emperor journeying from a distance. With this, I covered everything that I wanted to cover on Ainz. And that'll be all for this video. If you like this video, leave a like, leave your thoughts in the comments below or subscribe to the channel for more manga reviews and One Piece content. And until next time, take care.